Okay, hey everybody, estate planning attorney Paul Rabelais here. Excited to have a colleague of mine, Carly Bove, here. Carly's from New Jersey, and Carly, good to have you.
Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today.
Yeah, so I want to jump right in. I'm coming here from my kind of home office where I was born and raised in Louisiana. Carly's in New Jersey, and so I always like to ask, what led you to, you went to law school, undergrad, all that stuff, but what led you to branching out and becoming an estate planning attorney? What's the story there?
Sure. So I always had an interest in estate planning, stemming from law school. I was actually the TA for my wills, trust and estates class back, I think it was my second or third year of law school. It's been some time now. And I knew I liked it. I had an interest in family law, estate planning, and litigation. And ultimately, I dabbled in some family law. It was very sad watching all these families get divorced. So I knew I didn't want to stay in that field. And then I did heavy litigation for they were victims of nursing home abuse and neglect.
Wow.
And throughout that process, I saw a lot of powers of attorney, estate planning documents, doing a lot of review, using those in litigation, especially when there's admissions into nursing homes and what documents they relied upon. And ultimately, I just liked that field better than the day-to-day litigation. So I got my estate planning certificate, which is after law school. You essentially go back to school. It's like an abridged LLM through Temple's LLM department. And
Nice.
yeah, so I got that estate planning certificate to really beef up my knowledge in the field. And it brought me to my current practice area, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, so now that you're established in your own firm, your own practice, what's maybe different than what you thought it would be? What has kind of surprised you in so far as what you were expecting having your own firm versus what it's really like? Anything unusual there?
That's a loaded question. I feel like so you have to wear a lot of hats when you own your own firm. You have to do the business side of things, the administration, and then you also have, the client-facing approach. I think that I have a really hard time in delegating because I love to be the client-facing person. I like things done the way that I like them done, and I really like having a relationship with my clients and just speaking to them about what's going on in their life. I think a lot of people lose the humane side of law and they make it too legalese, like where they hold themselves out as the authority and then they look down upon their clients and it's like, the bar dividing between the two. And I really like to be on the same page with my clients and sit next to them versus across from them and just make them feel comfortable. So, all of it. I really enjoy it. It's definitely it takes a lot of time. It's not a part-time job whatsoever. It's not all glamorous owning your own firm. There's a lot of grit, a lot of late nights. You have to market, do all of these things, but ultimately, it's really rewarding to watch your business grow.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right about the marketing stuff. I think a lot of lawyers, at least a lot of the ones I've mentored and talked to over the years, they have this assumption that if they just kind of open their own business, then the clients will line up at their door and throw money at them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work that way, at least not from my end, I'm guessing. You too, Carly?
Yeah, definitely. It requires effort, going
Yeah.
to networking groups, waking up at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, pulling up your bootstraps and going. But you
Yeah.
meet so many people. And I think starting your own business is like pushing a snowball up a mountain. And that those first few years, you're really pushing it up. But then, once you reach a certain point, I think the snowball starts rolling down the mountain and all of your contacts start referring you and, word of
Yep.
mouth.
That's exactly how it works. And so one thing I know about you, you're licensed in New Jersey and Florida. What's the story there with Florida?
Yeah, so I have some family in Florida
Ah,
and I wanted to get licensed there. I thought maybe I was going to move there as a full-time resident, which I actually did. I moved down to Tampa,
oh,
lived there for about 2 years. And
wow.
a lot of people don't have a dual license with Florida being one of their second states because Florida does not have reciprocity. So you need to sit for a bar exam and no
Yikes.
attorney wants to take a bar exam for a second time. So, I studied for the bar exam. I passed it. I'm dual licensed. I'll never let that license lapse. And so many of my clients in New Jersey go back and forth between Florida and
Right.
New Jersey. Even
Yeah.
the snowbirds, they're residents of Florida, but they like doing their business here in Jersey when they're back. They speak with their financial advisor, their accountant, their
Yep.
lawyer, and their doctors.
Yeah. I want to jump into some of the probate, and it's great that you've got the New Jersey, the Florida, so you have an understanding of both states' systems. Love for you to share kind of we talked briefly before, and we talked about, how challenging the Florida probate system can be. It's probably overloaded. And then New Jersey's maybe a little more streamlined and maybe even simpler. So maybe give a comparison of those two systems, because I like people to know, hey, it's not exactly the same in every state. Where you are can really impact the kind of planning that you do. So share some thoughts with us there.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime I have a client who, says that they want to avoid probate, I really ask, okay, well, where did you hear that from? And "Oh, I heard it from my friend. Okay, well, where is your friend a resident? Oh, it's California or New York or okay, well, they are right for their specific state, but as it relates to New Jersey, it's not applicable. So side by side comparison in New Jersey, probate is very streamlined, very straightforward, pretty simple. You need the will, or if you have no will, then you fill out an information sheet, the certified death certificate. And you go to the courthouse and pretty much they'll just stamp you and send you on your way for the most part. There could be some more complicated provisions, but I'm not going to get into it. On Florida, by comparison,
So like going back to New Jersey, is it in I know in my state it's because there are no forms that people can fill out. Everything's customized by the attorneys, having to follow all the procedural rules. And I've talked to some people around the country, and some of them have said, my father passed away, and I was able to do the probate myself. Is it simple enough where some people, and I know every estate is varies in complexity, but is there any scenario where people are kind of completing these probates on their own in New Jersey?
absolutely. People are doing probate on their own constantly in New Jersey. Some people don't want to be bothered by doing it, so they can hire me or a different firm to handle it for them. But are people capable of doing it themselves in New Jersey? Yes. Are people capable of doing it themselves in Florida? Never say never, but probably not.
Yeah.
It's more of a formal legal process. There are pleadings involved, notice
Yep.
requirements, publication in newspapers, notifying creditors. It's much more of a formal filing process in Florida than it is in New Jersey. So that's why when it comes to my Florida clients, I say, listen, probate avoidance is absolutely a number one reason why you should create a trust instead of a will. If it's a New Jersey client and you tell me the only reason why you want to create a trust is to avoid probate, well, I'll tell you then that's really no reason at all. So there
Yeah.
has to be another reason.
Yeah. So I'm fascinated with the whole New Jersey thing. So let's say dad has a will, leaves his estate to his three children equally. Those three children get some kind of New Jersey form, and they probably list the assets on the form. And then does a judge sign some court order ordering, and then the kids can take that order to Schwab or Fidelity or various third parties to get assets transferred. Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then in New Jersey, creditors have 9 months to notify you of a claim as the executor. They have to notify the executor in writing. Whereas with other states, you as the executor have to notify known creditors. So there's a big distinction there. And ultimately, you take the letters of testamentary, which is the court order that the judge signed off
Right.
on, and you say, okay, PNC, this was my dad's bank account. Here's my court order appointing me as executor. Let me into the account. And then, okay, you could take the funds and deposit it into the estate account. You have the separate estate tax ID. It seems a little complicated to someone who's never done it before, but I could tell you in New Jersey, you can walk through the steps to get it done yourself. In Florida, I don't recommend going at it alone.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of dealing with it today. An ancillary probate in Florida. Somebody lived in Louisiana. They had a condo in Florida. And it's been going on for a few months. So yeah, I get the Florida thing for sure. And I gotta say, Carly and I have a couple of things in common. One, Carly has a new daughter, and I'm expecting my first granddaughter. So we were talking about that, and congratulate on top of everything that you have to do, having your own practice and waking up at 6 and 7 in the morning to get work done and to network. Now you got to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to deal with baby issues, but you've got so much to look forward to. So how's all that going now that you're back to work and having even more to juggle now?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's nice because I'm in the business of dealing with people and their loved ones, their family members, children. So now that I have a child of my own, I think it makes me more relatable and I can relate to my clients better. Like
Yeah.
understanding the importance of leaving a legacy, the importance of setting an estate plan. Who's going to be the guardian? My husband and myself are having this conversation that I constantly ask my clients who are new parents. So it's easy when I ask clients, and now I'm faced with these questions myself for me and my husband, and I have to sit down and create our estate plan. I have to practice what I preach.
Yeah, exactly. And just a little marketing tool. I remember when my kids were young, we had a little family portrait done. And whenever maybe a client would come in, they see me, I was 30 years old, 35 years old. They'd be like, "Do you have children?" And I'd pull out that little picture of the family that we took, and then they would just melt because most of my clients were in their 60s and 70s, and they were now getting enjoyment from their grandchildren. But that little picture of my family was a great marketing tool. So probably on your wall somewhere back there, you ought to get a good family portrait and
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's their family. It's all family is what it's all about. Especially as you say with estate planning, your clients are coming to see you because they want what's best for their family.
yeah.
So no, you got a lot to look forward
And I
to.
guess we had a lot in common because you said you opened your own firm back when you were 29 and I was similar. I was, 30, 31. It's that thing where you're meeting with clients who are typically, they have kids your age, right? And so you're sitting
Right.
down and you're handling their life savings. And it's a really important position and they're
Yeah.
entrusting you with their legacy. So to develop that connection with them, I'm definitely honored that people trust me to be their kids' ages, handling the disposition of their assets. And I'm sure you felt similar at the time.
Yeah, I can't say this anymore, but you have the advantage of yeah, I'm being blunt here, but you're probably going to be around when your clients pass away, and clients will have some comfort in that because over the years, I know everybody thought it, but I get the question. Maybe 1 out of 10 clients would say, Paul, what if you get hit by a bus, or what if you retire, or whatever? So you're probably going to be in the business for a long time. I think that's going to give some clients some comfort. I will tell you one other joke I used to make that I can't make anymore. When you give a presentation, Carly, you may want to tell your audience, hey, it's very important in this area of estate planning that you deal with an elder law attorney and not an elderly attorney. So that was one of my jokes I'd keep in my back pocket, but I think I've aged out of that joke, but it would get a little bit of a laugh. So
Someone's gonna hit me with an age discrimination claim or something in the audience. That's great, though. I do like that.
yeah. All right, moving on. I want to kind of hear what your clients in New Jersey, maybe what percentage, what are they saying? It's a tough area, but I know just those middle class, hardworking folks. They get to a certain age, maybe their parents have gone into a nursing home. They get to a point they're like, oh, what if I need that long-term care in the future? I really don't want to go to a nursing home, but you never know what the future holds. Are you hearing some of that in New Jersey? And what are some of those kind of concerns that you're hearing and how
Yeah,
those are getting addressed?
absolutely. I mean, everyone knows that the property values probably across the nation have increased substantially over the past couple of years with COVID, especially along the Jersey Shore coastline because the properties have gone up, oh my gosh, insurmountably. I mean, some clients who have purchased their homes 30 years ago can barely afford the taxes now because the property values have increased
It's
so much.
crazy.
Really, really
Yeah.
crazy along the coast over here. So what happens is usually people's largest assets are their homes. And they're hardworking, they've paid off their mortgage and they have a lump sum of equity sitting in this home. And they think, well, I want to make sure that I pass this down to my children. And I'm very concerned if I go to a nursing home that the nursing home could drain me of my equity in my home. So, what we can do in order to quell that fear for people is move their home into an asset protection trust. Has to be done 5 years before they need to go into a nursing home because of that look back period. But typically, that could give a client a peace of mind knowing that so long as they move their home into an asset protection trust at least 5 years before needing nursing home care, minimally, they'll be able to pass down that home to their loved ones. People would say, well, why not just let me save the money, not spend it on a trust. I'll gift it to my kids instead of putting it in a trust. And if I gift it to them 5 years before I need it, then problem solved. I don't need you. And I say, yes, you can absolutely do it. 100%. However, you are now gifting your basis to your children. So if you purchased that property for $100,000 back in 1950, and it's when you die, it's now worth $1 million, you gifted your basis of 100,000 to your kids instead of allowing it to pass by virtue of an inheritance through a trust where now they could receive the stepped up basis to date of death value. And that's relevant for capital gains because if they go to sell the property, it's sale price minus basis price to determine capital gains and capital gains taxes. So major tax savings for your children or beneficiaries, whoever they are, if you do leave it by virtue of an inheritance and protect it in a trust.
Yeah. I do find people hear bits and pieces of things like your person who said they heard about, avoiding probate from a friend. People hear things and they kind of know enough to be dangerous. Another thing people will tell me is, well, I can just leave my home in my name because the home is not counted for purposes of the assets that you have if you go into a nursing home. And then they don't realize that the state, and I don't know what it's like in New Jersey and Florida exactly, but states have these estate recovery rights. So if you do own your home, yes, they don't count it for purposes of determining Medicaid eligibility if you go into a nursing home. But when you pass away, that home may have to be sold to reimburse Medicaid for the nursing home expenses that they paid on your behalf. That's all part of those state recovery rights. Are you seeing some of that in New Jersey?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was dealing with it today with a phone call with a realtor, and we're trying to figure out the property. It's multi-leveled because essentially the person who passed away, it was her dad who had the Medicaid lien, and it just got very, very complicated, several degrees removed. But yes, absolutely. I tell people Medicaid is a loan, it's not health insurance, very different from Medicare. So if you are receiving benefits from the government or the state by virtue of Medicaid, they are going to seek to collect upon death. And yes, maybe you could qualify or they'll let the surviving spouse stay in the home, but they are coming to collect with their hand open upon death. So they are going
Right.
to be a creditor and they will receive any equity in that home above your children as a first in time first in right creditor. So if you can put a wall of protection around your home in the trust, move it out of your name, that's one way to solve that problem.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, I want to jump to some of your state-specific inheritance tax issues. Most states don't have their own estate or inheritance tax. Yes, the federal government has an estate tax that applies wherever you live, but the exemptions are real high, 13.6 million for people who pass away this year. But a handful of states, including New Jersey, as I understand it, have their own state tax. Some states have an estate tax that's based on the value of the estate. Some states have an inheritance tax and the tax rate can vary depending upon the relationship that the person who's inheriting has with the deceased person. So fill us in on some details, Carly, about what New Jersey's kind of death tax is.
Yeah, great question. So New Jersey eliminated the estate tax back in 2018, 2019. It was a legislative trade-off where we now all pay a gas tax. And we got rid of the New Jersey estate tax, meaning if you die and you own in excess of this amount, then this will be taxed. Anything above that level. It was pretty low. At one point, it was 500,000. If you own
Wow.
a home in New Jersey, it could just push you over the threshold. It bumped up all the way to 2 million, and then we eliminated it. So now if you die, there's no estate tax for New Jersey purposes. We still have an inheritance tax. It's not how much you die with, it's who you leave your assets to. So if you leave your assets to a Class A beneficiary, which is your direct lineal tree trunk, so think of parent, you and spouse, child, grandchild, direct linear descendant, there's no New Jersey inheritance tax.
Okay. That
If
probably exempts
it does.
most estates then.
It
Yeah.
does. However, if you leave to the branches of your tree, so brother, sister, niece,
Yep.
nephew, girlfriend, whoever, there's an 11 to 16% inheritance tax based upon
Okay.
they are in their relation to you and how much you leave them. So we find ourselves with really big New Jersey inheritance tax bills when you have a boyfriend and a girlfriend who lived together for 30 plus years, own
Right.
together, and now all of a sudden girlfriend dies and boyfriend has a huge inheritance tax bill to keep the home. So
So
sometimes
the wedding ring may be cheaper than the inheritance tax, is what we're
well,
saying.
yes, Paul, I counsel clients and I said, listen, I'm not encouraging you to get married. You do what you want to do, but if you want to save on taxes, I really, really encourage you to tie the knot. Don't even have to tell anyone, but just make it legal so that you could save on taxes because people don't know
Yeah.
what they don't know. And some clients, who I've dealt with, they said, man, had I known this, we probably would have gotten married at the courthouse because, anticipation of this big tax bill. We're talking about they could have saved like $80,000, which is substantial,
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
you know.
And
Don't have a
so,
big wedding. You don't have to pay for the wedding because weddings these
yeah.
days are like, my gosh, more than 80,000, but
Yeah, weddings are crazy these days. So, and then I guess if it's left to charity, there's no tax.
correct, correct.
Yeah. Does the tax apply to things like traditional and Roth IRAs, or are those exempt from the inheritance tax? Do you know?
It depends. It
Okay.
completely.
Okay. So yeah, it's a 16%, as high as 16% on top of the 40% federal estate tax when that applies. So that's more than half. So that's no fun. Yeah.
No,
Do
no.
you find those who would be subject to the inheritance tax is 11 to 16% enough where they do some gifting before they die? I know a lot of people gift to avoid the 40% tax, but do you see people gifting to avoid the inheritance tax or not so much?
Um, it's a toss up. I do offer people that option, but a lot of the times they want to like hedge their bets and they'll give a percentage or something like that. So they're like, well, I don't know how much I'm going to die with. And if I want to leave a percentage,
Yeah.
what that will be. And so sometimes, we do the calculation. If they want to leave like $10,000 or something, we calculate the tax and they're like, whatever, like it's fine. They're lucky to
Yeah.
be getting money anyway. So
Is there like a gift tax or is it just the inheritance tax?
I mean, the same thing nationally, just like how you have
Okay.
18,000 per person per year,
Okay.
and then it speaks against, the federal estate tax. So yeah, you essentially can avoid the New Jersey inheritance tax by gifting during lifetime, but you still run up against the federal estate tax lifetime amount.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. What about Florida? Florida doesn't have an inheritance or estate tax, I don't
No,
believe.
they don't. They don't. And that was part of the reason why New Jersey got rid of their estate tax because everyone was re-domiciling in Florida. They would say, why would I
Right.
die as a resident of New Jersey and pay estate taxes when I can die as a resident of Florida and pay none? So we
And
were
pay no income tax as a resident of Florida.
exactly. So for people who have income producing assets, that was a big tax savings and it still is. But, at least we got rid of the estate tax, which is a better public policy to keep our seniors here, to have people age in place, the tax revenue from them going out for dinner, lunches, things like that. It was just a better public policy consideration.
Yeah. Great. So where did you do all your schooling? I see all the diplomas and all the certificates behind you. Where'd you go to school?
So I went to the College of New Jersey for undergrad, born and raised Jersey Shore girl from New Jersey. And then I went to Rutgers in Camden for law
Yeah.
school, straight out
Okay.
of undergrad, straight to law school. And then I did my estate planning certificate over the bridge, the Ben Franklin in Philadelphia at Temple.
Yeah. Was like in class kind of thing, or was it online, and how did that
Yes.
work?
So it was the in-person requirement. This was pre-COVID. And then I had one more class I had to take, but that was during the COVID time. So they allowed us to do it virtually.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Was kind of in your area many years ago when I got my LLM in tax from Boston University.
Oh,
So
yeah.
got a good taste of the Northeast up there.
Austin's way colder than Jersey. I don't know how you did it.
Colder, yeah, it was cold. It was my wife and I went up there right after I finished law school. She got pregnant. She moved home. I stayed up there for 9 months. It was freezing cold,
Um,
and remember finishing my last exam on like her due date, and I was 2,000 miles away. So I finished my exam. It was an exam in the evening from like 6:30 to 8:30. Got in my car, drove 27 straight hours, and made it home before the baby was born.
oh
So
my
that was our
God.
first child.
Good for
Uh,
you. Wow.
yeah,
Wow. That's great. What a story, man.
yeah. So, all right. What other issues are you dealing with? Or the common issues I hear, other than the just I want to appoint this person as my trustee and I want to leave it to my children equally. I hear things like, I'd like to make it divorce proof for my children. I hear a lot of, my child isn't ready to handle a lump sum of money. I'd like to dole it out over time. Are those some of the similar kind of unique or custom things that you help people with?
Yeah, so unique in the sense of estate planning, but I think universal in the sense of concerns that parents have. Whether, you're a client of yours in Louisiana or a client of mine in Jersey or Florida, all parents share a similar concern of, all right, I love my son-in-law or my daughter-in-law, but in the event that my child gets divorced, I want my money that I left my child to go to my child, not my soon-to-be ex-daughter-in-law or
Right.
ex-son-in-law. So New Jersey does have a statute that exempts inherited property from equitable distribution. So I do counsel clients to say, listen, we can tie the money up in a trust for your children, or we can benefit from that statute. You're kind of relying on your children to make sure that they abide by the formalities of the statute of opening up a new account, not commingling it with marital assets, and so on and so forth. But yes, parents are concerned about that. We do have concerns about, let's see, the divorce. We have concerns about second marriages. We have concerns about death of the first spouse and the survivor spouse, wanting to make sure that the estate plan remains intact and not that, the surviving wife marries the pool boy and runs off with all of the first spouse's money and then disinherits the children, right? That's
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
fear. So you hear all of the fears. Pretty much our meetings are the time where people voice their fears and concerns about property. And then we try and conquer those fears in concrete ways through estate planning documents because we want to give people peace of mind. Okay. So if we sign this plan, we know that when we die, this is what's going to happen. And it just gives people that ease. That's really what we're in the business of doing.
Yeah. Great. Of interest here, I've got some live chat from Denise Schneider who says, "Hi, Carly, where is your office located?" So I'm sure you're like us. You can work with people in person or virtually wherever they are in the state. And I'm going to put Carly's um, office's website in the description of the video so you can check that out. But just kind of generally speaking, what city or geographic area are you in physically?
Hi, Denise. So I'm located in Manasquan, New Jersey, which is Monmouth County. And I'm right on Route 70. A lot of people are
Great.
familiar.
And I want to tell everybody in New Jersey to go see Carly because one of the attorneys who works with me here in Louisiana, she's originally from New Jersey. And so we've been working with Carly for a year or so now. And when we have clients who have New Jersey type issues. So we've gotten to know Carly's probably the out-of-state attorney that I think we've gotten to know most, so much so that I was told that we bought some little outfit for your baby. But if I would have had anything to do with that, it would have said "Go Tigers" on the front
It
because of
did.
my LSU Tigers thing.
It absolutely did. Yeah, you got
Oh,
it.
it did. Okay.
Yes, it did. It did.
Okay.
A
All
little
right.
crab,
Great.
a crab onesie, and she wore it to the beach over 4th of July weekend. It was so
Oh, fantastic. I need a picture of that. You'll have to send it to me.
I will. Thank you
So,
for that.
yeah. Anything else you want to cover, Carly, before I let you get back to babies and law stuff and all that?
No, I think my takeaway for people is that just, make sure you get your documents in order. When you need these documents in place is typically the time when you can't make them anymore. So if anyone is listening, having an interest in estate planning, you've already, done the first action step of knowing that you need something. So definitely get your documents in order because there will be a time when you have a need and you'll say, thank goodness I put this plan in place, X number of years ago. Just set it, forget it, revisit it if you need to for a life change or a circumstance, but ultimately get something in place and then you'll feel so much better.
Yep. Well said. You're very well spoken for a young mom and young
Oh,
lawyer.
thank
So,
you. Thanks,
all
Bob.
right, everybody. Well, look, it was great to have Carly. This was fun. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. I hope